You could hear it before you could see it. A deep, metallic rhythm echoing through an endless building in Kentucky. Arms moving, sparks flying, conveyor belts gliding without stopping for even a second. And somewhere inside that controlled chaos, a brand new Toyota rolled off the line. Then another. Then another. One every 60 seconds. At first, it just sounds like an impressive factory statistic. But the deeper you look, the stranger this place becomes. Because Toyota isn't just building cars here anymore. It's rebuilding itself. For years, the entire auto industry treated Toyota like the company that missed the future. Tesla was dominating headlines. BYD was flooding markets with cheap electric cars. Every month brought another prediction that traditional automakers were running out of time. And through all of it, Toyota kept doing something almost nobody understood. It stayed quiet. No dramatic promises. No robotaxi no claims that steering wheels would disappear in 5 years. While everyone else raced to look futuristic, Toyota kept refining factories, supply chains, batteries, and production systems most people would never even see. And that's what makes this factory so important, because hidden inside this building is the answer to a question the car industry still can't agree on. Did Toyota fall behind in the EV race, or did it wait on purpose? The first thing people notice inside Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky isn't the speed. It's the precision. Thousands of parts arrive at exactly the moment they're needed. Not hours earlier. Not days earlier. Sometimes only minutes before installation. Engines, doors, dashboards, batteries. Everything moves through the plant like pieces inside a giant. Mechanical Clock. Toyota calls this just-in-time manufacturing. Which sounds simple until you realize how dangerous it actually is. Most factories keep extra inventory everywhere because delays happen constantly. Toyota intentionally removes that safety cushion. If one supplier fails, the entire system feels it immediately. That pressure forces every part of the chain to become better. And then there's Kaizen, a word Toyota employs here constantly. Continuous improvement. Tiny adjustments repeated every single day. Not massive small fixes, faster motions, safer positioning, less wasted movement. A worker notices an inefficient step today, and tomorrow the process changes. It sounds boring on paper, but over decades, those tiny improvements compound into something terrifyingly efficient. That's how a company builds over 2,000 vehicles a day without the factory feeling rushed, and this is where most people misunderstand Toyota. They think the company's advantage is robotics. At ISN, single quotes, "The robots are incredible, obviously. Some welding machines move with almost impossible precision, placing components within fractions of a millimeter. AI systems monitor defects in real time. Sensors constantly scan production lines looking for delays or abnormalities before humans even notice them, but Toyota never designed this place to remove people. It designed it to remove unpredictability. That's a very different philosophy. Inside the plant, more than 8,000 people still work alongside the machines, and Toyota treats that relationship almost like a partnership. Workers are trained for months before touching critical systems. Teams constantly suggest improvements to managers. If someone discovers a safer or faster method, Toyota actually listens. One longtime employee described the culture with a sentence that sounds simple until you think about it. At Toyota, you're heard. That matters more than most people realize, because while other companies became obsessed with replacing humans entirely, Toyota focused on coordination, human judgment where flexibility matters, machines where precision matters, AI where monitoring matters, and strangely enough, that slower, more disciplined approach may have created one of the most scalable manufacturing systems on Earth. But none of this explains why industry analysts suddenly started paying attention to this factory. Again, that part happened later, quietly, without announcements somewhere inside these production lines. Toyota started preparing for something it spent years appearing hesitant to embrace: electric vehicles. At first, the changes were subtle. New testing areas, reconfigured assembly sections, specialized battery handling zones. Then engineers began designing lines capable of producing gasoline cars, hybrids, and EVs inside the same facility. That flexibility changes everything. Most EV factories are built around one specific future. Toyota built this factory around uncertainty itself, and this is where the story starts to get uncomfortable for the rest of the industry. Because while Tesla and BYD were competing publicly for EV dominance, Toyota was studying the part of the business most companies still struggle to control. Batteries, not the cars, the batteries. That's the real war. Anyone can design an electric car eventually, but batteries determine range, charging speed, safety, lifespan, production cost, and profitability. Control batteries, and you control the future of the industry. Toyota understood that earlier than people think. For years, the company relied heavily on hybrids, while competitors mocked it for moving too cautiously into fully electric vehicles. But inside Kentucky, something bigger was happening. Toyota began preparing to manufacture more battery systems internally instead of depending entirely on outside suppliers. That decision may end up becoming one of the most important moments in Toyota's modern history, because once a car company controls its own battery development, everything changes. Pricing, supply chains, performance targets, production speed, even geopolitical risk. And then came the technology that made everyone in the industry nervous. Solid-state batteries. For years, they've been treated almost like the holy grail of EV development. Safer than lithium-ion. Faster charging, higher energy density, potentially longer lifespan. The kind of breakthrough that could eliminate several of the biggest frustrations people still have with electric vehicles. The problem is that almost nobody has figured out how to mass produce them reliably. Toyota believes it can. And suddenly, the factory making one car every 60 seconds stopped looking like an ordinary manufacturing plant. It started looking like a launch platform, because if Toyota successfully combines solid-state battery technology with the production discipline it spent decades perfecting, the balance of the EV race could change extremely fast. That possibility is what makes Toyota so difficult to predict right now. Tesla moves aggressively. BYD moves cheaply. Startups move emotionally. Toyota moves carefully, until it decides not to. And historically, when Toyota commits fully to something, industries shift around it. You can already see hints of that. Pressure building. Every vehicle leaving the Kentucky plant goes through layers of inspection most drivers will never think about. Digital diagnostics, brake analysis, suspension testing, high-speed evaluation, noise, insulation checks, sensors examining systems most customers will never even notice unless something fails. Years later, that obsession with reliability shaped Toyota's reputation for decades. Not excitement, not disruption. Trust. And trust scales differently than hype does. That's why Camrys still dominate highways. Why our AV4 hybrids keep selling in massive numbers. Why families who have driven Toyotas for 20 years rarely leave the brand. Toyota spent decades building a relationship with customers based on predictability. The cars start, they last. Repairs stay manageable. Problems stay rare. It isn't glamorous, but it's powerful. And now the company that mastered reliability is trying to merge that reputation with next-generation battery technology and AI-driven manufacturing. That combination could become extremely difficult to compete against. Because the biggest misunderstanding about Toyota was never that it lacked innovation. It's that people assumed silence meant weakness. But standing inside this factory changes that perception completely. Every moving line, every robotic arm, every battery test chamber feels connected to something larger. Not a sudden revolution, something slower, more deliberate. A company preparing itself before making its move. And maybe that's the real difference between Toyota and the companies chasing it. Tesla tried to force the future to arrive faster. Toyota is trying to make sure the future actually works when it gets here. Which leaves one final question hanging over this entire factory. What happens if the company known for being the most patient suddenly decides it's done waiting? You could hear it before you could see it. A deep, metallic rhythm echoing through an endless building in Kentucky. Arms moving, sparks flying, conveyor belts gliding without stopping for even a second. And somewhere inside that controlled chaos, a brand new Toyota rolled off the line. Then another. Then another. one every 60 seconds. At first, it just sounds like an impressive factory statistic. But the deeper you look, the stranger this place becomes. Because Toyota isn't just building cars here anymore, it's rebuilding itself. For years, the entire auto industry treated Toyota like the company that missed the future. Tesla was dominating headlines. BYD was flooding markets with cheap electric cars. Every month brought another prediction that traditional automakers were running out of time. And through all of it, Toyota kept doing something almost nobody understood. It stayed quiet. No dramatic promises. No robotaxi no claims that steering wheels would disappear in 5 years. While everyone else raced to look futuristic, Toyo kept refining factories,